So this is our number 2 community hour, and the goal is to show you a bit what we've been working on lately. So today, what do we have on the plan? Some people coming. Okay. So today, the main thing we are going to show you are the 3 main features. So we introduced the notion of sandboxes in Now, which lets you run some Python in the Now tabs. So Christophe is going to show it to you. Then we're also going to show you how you can add some data profiling in the context of your agents. Yeah, I think we'll do that at the end. And the other feature is the chat replay, so the ability for the admin, so for you as a data team to check the chats that are done by your business users, so that you can check if the answers were right and adjust the context if you see that the agent failed at some point. So yeah, so this is meant to be like interactive demo. So don't hesitate to ask some question in the chat or just like raise your hand as we do the demo. And at the end, we'll just do a full Q&A if you have any questions on Now or for us. Cool. So I'll leave you the floor, Christophe.
Yeah. So hey everyone. So I'm gonna share my screen. Maybe you can stop sharing screen share.
Yeah.
Is it working?
It's not working.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Okay, it looks like it is. Cool. I don't know if you followed a bit the way the agentic world is evolving at the moment, but there is like a huge push towards sandboxes, and the idea of the sandboxes is to give agents isolated environment in which they can run whatever they want, and it's a kind of a place where you can just say do whatever you want because it's in the sandbox. If it breaks something, I don't care because it's in the sandbox. And this is something that we started to add in Now a few weeks ago. We have 2 kinds of sandboxes, and the goal in the current version of these sandboxes is a way to give to the agents Python superpower, in a sense. It's like we let the agents write whatever Python the agent want to write to do some kind of data transformation, because most of the time when we do Python transformation, it's because it's something that we cannot do in SQL. For instance, like in SQL, if I want to run like some kind of scikit-learn package, pandas transformation, like a pivot table that is better than in Python, I don't know, some stuff like this, I will still default to Python to do it as a data person. And so this is what we try to replicate with the sandboxes at the moment. And I have like just an Escalade Canva just to give you the concepts and what's important in the current agentic loop in Now. So if we look at the agentic loop and how it works, we have the agents. The agent, the way it works, each time you call the agent, you send like in the context, you send the context. And in the context, we give to the agent some part of the context is, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but part of the context is the system prompt. Sorry, I think on my keyboard. Another part of the context is all the memory, so all the stuff that we learn about you that you can already see now. I don't know if you remember, but this is something that you can see now. When you look at memory here, you can now learn some stuff, and there is like some stuff that is always sent in the system prompt every time you do a message. And then there is another part, which is the tools. And the tools are the way the agent is able to interact with stuff. So in the case of Now, the tools are stuff that we already discussed. So ls, read, search. And there is a new tool that we added that is sandboxes. And we have 2 kinds of sandboxes. We have an isolated sandboxes that is able to just do Python, and we have a sandbox that is able to do Python and connect to internet or run whatever Docker container that you want. So we have both. And one is a bit easier than the other. Like the small one that is not able to connect to internet is just like running Python scripts without any packages and so on. Whereas the other one is more complete. We have both because it's a bit of a try to discover what is the most useful one. And so you have this tool that is the sandbox. And when you run the sandbox, when the agent calls the sandbox will be running on the back end of the Now. So if Now runs locally, it will run locally on your computer. If Now runs on a server, it will run on the server that is now deployed on. So everything stays locally where you deploy Now. The other thing that is cool with sandboxes is that the sandboxes have access to the context folder. That's one thing. So if you have stuff in the context folder, like all the documentation, repo, stuff like this, the sandboxes has access to it. For the moment, it's read-only. The vision on this is that is bidirectional, that the sandbox can also write in the context folder. And sandboxes have access to SQL query results. And this is the one like to reproduce stuff where you do a query, you get the data from the warehouse, and from the data that you got from the warehouse, you do Python transformation on top or whatever manipulation you want to do on top. And then you do whatever you want, or the agent do whatever you want. So that was just like the simple introduction to explain what is this sandboxing ecosystem. Any question on this? No? Okay. So if I do a small demo on Now, so here, for instance, if I say, can you run 1+1 in Python? It will not be able to do it because I didn't activate the sandbox. So if I want to activate the sandbox, I have to go in the settings, projects, agents, and it's in the experimental category for the moment. And I can activate Python sandboxing. And now if I come back here and say, do an ASCII heart in Python to say, hello, people watching, whatever it means for the agents, people watching. Oh, he tried to use a package that does not exist because this Python sandbox have no packages. So yeah, hello watching. And when you look at it, it's just Python code at the moment. So it's like the same as saying run 1+1 in Python. This is just a small example to show it to you. So here I have like Python code that ran. And the way the sandboxes works, it's the last line of the Python script, in this case, will be the one that will be displayed on the output. That's the way it works for this kind of sandbox that is just simple Python interpretation. There is something cool about this sandbox that is completely isolated. It cannot access to internet, so read stuff on read the google.com page in the sandbox. And you say, oh no, I cannot read because the sandbox doesn't have access to internet, so it will not be able to do it. And here, the agent did it using the new feature that we added also in the last weeks, which is the web fetch. So here he went on Google and got some data. I can also ask what are the current news. Not sure it's like a good idea to ask this, but here it will do a web search and say what are, yeah, super. It will like give some news. So that's the first sandbox, which is like the simple Python sandbox. And we have the second sandbox, which is more complete, but this one has access to internet. So it depends on what you want to do. Sometimes you don't want a sandbox that has access to internet. And in this sandbox, I will show you something that is super cool, which is I can ask the sandbox, for instance, to read a result from a previous SQL query. So if I, for instance, say in SQL select a random number, and then in the sandbox display the random number from the query. It's just like a simple example to show you that from a SQL query that is executed by the agent, then in a sandbox, you can chain and read the output of the SQL query to do some stuff. So here, I have like a SQL that is doing run number. I have a run number. And here in my sandbox, I open random.csv, which is the output of this SQL query that is given by the agent. I read this, and then I display it in the output of the sandbox. So here, this is a way for the agent to pull the data from your database, and then in an isolation, run whatever Python script you want to do some stuff. And here, what I can do to do a proper example, for instance, I can ask the agent to do linear regression or whatever regression he wants to predict how many stars we will have on the repo at the end of the year. So if I say using the stars table, and there is something cool that we added recently. We have this, but I don't know the name of the table about stars.
Yeah, but it's not in the context, so it's not going to work.
Oh, my bad. But we added this, which is a context
yeah,
figure.
no, actually, you can use the GitHub daily KPIs.
Okay, perfect.
That's this one.
Using the GitHub daily KPI table, predict in Python sandbox or in Python how many stars we will have at the end of the year. So it will first pull the data from the data warehouse. So here we have the cumulative stars, and then it run a sandbox in Python with pandas, with NumPy, that has been installed in the sandbox, and the agent will do whatever it wants. I will wait a bit on this.
And how does it work if you have let's say you have a custom forecasting model? What would you do?
Yeah.
Like, can you import it?
So it's not super handy yet, but you can do it. The way I would do it is either you have like already a package that is easily installable in the sandbox, and so you explain to the agents how to install the package. That's the first thing. The second thing, this is something that is not totally ready, but when you have your context folder here, we have like the agent folder in which we have like MCPs, skills, tools, etc. The goal and the vision will be here. So you put the Python script that contains all your custom predict package and whatever. And then the best would be for you to create a skill that explains how to use your package or use your prediction model. And then when you ask the agent to do the stuff, you could use the / command to call the skill to run the custom package that you have. And then the Python code will be imported and used in the sandbox.
Okay.
So here it's running some code. Just to show you what is the visual output here. So it created a sandbox. You see that 2 packages were installed in the sandbox. So here we see that it used pandas and NumPy. It used star CSV, which is the output of this SQL query. And we have like a sandbox ID here. And what we see is that between different runs, the agent is still using the same sandbox. The sandbox have a time to live to 5 minutes. That is 5 minutes. So if you reuse a sandbox in 5 minutes, the sandbox will still be alive, but after 5 minutes, the sandbox is being destroyed. And then at the end, it did some kind of analysis, and it showcase here a chart. Oh, the chart doesn't work, sadly. Why? So it said if we stay conservative, we will have 2,000 stores at the end of the year, optimistic 3,000 stores. Cool, but the chart is not working. I don't know why. That's sad. The chart is not working. But yeah, that's just to showcase. And if we look a bit at what it did, in the end, it's just Python code that is written. It's a bit like when you write code, but here it's just wrapped in the transformation. I think this kind of code might be interesting to put it and maybe to export it in your repo and so on. And this is something that we will work on later, because if you have some kind of code that is cool and working in an analysis, maybe you want to get it and reuse it for later. So that's something we could work on later. Oh, now the chart is working. And here what it did a cool hack to just show the linear regression, or it's not a linear regression, but the prediction here. So that's one thing. I don't know if, yeah, that's mainly what we have. And any question about the sandboxes? No. Okay. To give you also more ideas about the vision of the sandboxes, the goal of the sandboxes here is to do some kind of data transformation. But on the long run, I think, and we think that sandboxes are like really huge part of the stuff that an agent can do. And what we will go towards to is giving more power to the agent and giving more powers to the sandboxes and integrating more and more stuff into the sandboxes. So for instance, we already support the MCPs, but if you do a lot of MCPs, you will notice that when you want to change something, it will do like a lot of calls to MCPs and cost a lot of tokens. Sandboxes can be a way to, or programmatic calling with sandboxes can be a way to reduce a bit the token used by the MCPs. So this is something that we are working on, which is being able to call the endpoint of the MCPs through code that is running in a sandbox. So if I just give you an example, imagine here, instead of running pd.readcsv, I'll do, for instance, github.readIssue. And github.readIssue is actually a call to MCP server that is running or that is set up on my project. And this way, I would be able to, in a one Python script, to chain multiple calls to the same MCP instead of each time asking the agent to interpret the result of the MCP and rerun and rerun and rerun. This is like a way that saves a lot of steps in the agentic loop when you do it this way. So this is something that we already have as an experiment. It's not yet pushed on the main branch, but will be soon. Also, what I think we are moving towards is, at the moment, the context folder is one direction. So here, when we have the agentic loop, we have like nearby the agentic loop, the file system. And the file system is, in a sense, mounted to the agents. It's not a proper mount. It's just where the agent run the file system is. And the agent is only doing stuff in a read-only manner on the file system. But I think we should provide to the sandboxes a write file system in which the sandbox can write, and another time when the sandbox will pick up the job that the previous sandbox has done, a file system that is attached to the user or the project still exists, in which you can like store data or do stuff like this. I think it's like a good example for this would be, imagine you have like memory about a DBT project, or you add some kind of like a library, for instance, like the library that does the prediction. At some point, I'm like, oh, I would like to keep it for like a later conversation that we will have, or for a rerun that we will do like in a month because I've done an analysis. So it could be like a good way to save stuff that is related to the stuff that you have done in the agentic loop. Yeah, that's what it is when it comes to sandboxes. Something that we also added this week is the chat replay. I will showcase it on the conversation that we just had. So when you go in the admin, you have now an entry that is chat replay. And chat replay is for an admin. It's only visible to the admin. A way to see the conversation that the users already had with the agent. So here, this is the conversation that we just had. I can open the chat, and I can see the chat as if I was the user, but in read-only. So here I can see that my user, yeah, there's this kind of stuff. Here I can see, oh, there was an error, a tool error, and I can like navigate to the error and see, oh, okay, it's something that is like, we don't care, like the agent fix it. If, for instance, in my conversation, I would have added like not working because I'm not happy about this. As an admin, I can also see it here and see that, oh, there is a down vote, and I can have a look at it and say, oh, there is a feedback here. Oh, it's not working. So it's like the the beginning of the observability around the conversation for you as admin to understand how the users are using the tool. So you improve the tools that you give, the context, etc. And we also added the category here, which is logs. The logs is just forwarding of all the logs the server is receiving. And you have like all level of logs. So for instance, you can also see like all the errors and logs that are coming either from the HTTP, the agent, the tool, the system. This is something that we added for people that are deploying now into Docker, into a service like Cloud Run, and are not used to use the Google console or AWS console to get the logs. This is just a first way to have a look at the logs and get the errors here. But most of the people already have like all the toolings to get these logs, but this is something that is a bit handy to understand what's happening when you run the server. And the last thing I want to add, because we said that this would be sandboxes and MCPs, I can just showcase you a small MCP setup. Here, I will just go back to the local for the MCP because I have my database only on local for the demo. So for instance, I can ask now how many issues were created this week, per week in the report. So I will let now explore and find how many issues were created. And just to show you while it runs, I've set up an MCP server to Metabase here in Nao. So here I have a Metabase that is running also locally. It's like a default Metabase. There is nothing in it except the fact that I've connected the data from Purette Silver, which is our data warehouse. And if I wait here, okay, cool. Now found how many issues were created per week. And now I can say, who create a Metabase dashboard about issues. I would say in a real agentic world, why would you need Metabase when you have now stories? But I know that people are still using BI tool, and we are still using BI tools. So it's a bit of a joke, but so you can push back also some analysis that you have done directly from the now UI into Metabase. And so here we are saying that the agent is creating the issue, the question one by one, and at some point it will create the dashboard. Oh, and if I look at Metabase here, I have a dashboard called GitHub issue that is empty. Oh no. Where we have, the number of issues, average minute to close it. Looks like a lot. I don't know if it's 10 minutes or 10,000 minutes. If it's 10,000 minutes, it's a bit weird. And yeah, but I'm not having a little deeper look on this because this is just like a dashboard. But this is stuff that you can do. Like if you have like a Metabase MCP or other kind of tool MCPs, you can, after you have done an analysis, push back the stuff to the tool or pull the data from there. There is something that is also important depending on what is your governance regarding MCP and tools. Here you can pick the tools that you want to use from the MCP server. So if there are tools that are like destructive in a sense or writes, you could eventually not delete, but deactivate them and just use the one that are reading. So it depends what is like the company policy. Yeah, that's what it is regarding MCPs. On the long run, I don't know if you have followed like currently like the discussion around MCPs, CLI, which should I use? I think both should exist. I think we can do like the same thing with a CLI or MCP. It's just a matter of different implementations. To me, MCPs are still a good way to encapsulate tools. The thing that should change is the way we implement the MCP client on our side. At the moment, the MCP client is putting the tools all in one in the context here, but we should improve it by either doing this programmatic tool calling through the sandboxes, or with something that is called progressive disclosure, which is like discovering the MCP progressively and letting the agents understand what are the tools in the MCP progressively. And this is stuff that we have to try and implement, and we'll give you, I think the goal also now in terms of vision, as it's open source, you can see all the codes and all the system prompt and the prompts that we decided to put. But the goal in the long run is to give you as admin, because you will be the admin of all the now instance that you have, all the capabilities to change either the prompt, either the settings. So that's why here in agents you have like different kind of sandboxes. I think here in the sandboxes we will add the fact that you can, if you allow some packages to be installed or not, because for instance there are some companies that do not want any packages to be installed in a sandbox, only a few subsets. So here you could have an allow list of all the packages that you can install, if you allow the sandbox to connect to internet and all this kind of stuff. And that's all. Any question? So it was like a big bunch of stuff, but
yes, thank you for the presentation. It was very clear. Just can you explain a little bit the difference again between the Python sandboxing and the sandboxes?
Yeah.
Why did you create two different?
So because at the beginning I started with Python sandboxing, and just to give you what's underlying, the first one is the Python sandboxes are Monty. So Monty is like actually I called it sandbox, but it's more like a Python interpreter. is just like a subset of the whole Python interpreter written in Rust. And the cool thing about Monty is that it's super fast to start. Like when you look at the start time of Monty, it's like 0.6 milliseconds. So this is something that can start super fast to run Python code, and just Python code with the standard library in Python. And so it's more like something of flexibility, because sometimes I want to do some data transformation that is just array or object transformation in Python, and Monty, I think, for this works super well. So you get the data from the database and you do like, I don't know, some kind of string manipulation that you cannot do in SQL, or stuff that you don't want to do in SQL because it will be costly. I don't know, like repeat 1,000 times a loop on something. And so Monty is good for this because it doesn't leak on internet, because it doesn't have access to internet. It doesn't use like any packages and so on. The other sandboxing technology that we use is Boxlight. And Boxlight, the big difference is the full-fledged sandbox that starts as like a Docker container. It's not a Docker container, it's just a container. And so when we start a Boxlight, we can say, we want a Python environment, we want a Node environment, we want whatever, like a proper container. And in Boxlight, you can install packages, you can have access to internet, you can manage resources and say, I want more CPU, more RAM, and so on. So that's like the difference between both. One is like more fully fledged, whereas the other one is more just an interpreter.
Okay. Thank you. And maybe another question more like on the product, maybe more on the stories. I haven't tried now yet, but someone in my team is trying it, and tomorrow we'll discuss as a team like the different use cases. And I was wondering, you know, that maybe BigQuery launched the BigQuery agents, where you can ask some analysis as a kind of a notebook with the queries, and then some deep dives, some key insights and everything. I was wondering what are the advantages of using Now for the stories compared to BigQuery? And so sorry for the question. It's but yeah.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts on this.
So I have multiple like answer on this at multiple levels. The first one is, one of the advantages that we have is, first, we are open source, so you can see whatever, you can see like all the prompts and all the stuff that is running. Second thing, as we are independent, you can bring the models that you want. So, but if you are on GCP and you want to use Gemini, or you are okay with this, but go with it. But the advantage with Now is that you can use BigQuery and use Anthropic, or use OpenAI, or use your own internal endpoints if you have some. So it's like totally independent. And the last thing is, personally, I prefer using like Now UI than everything in the BigQuery Studio. This is not like something I don't like the UX and the UI there. I feel it's not done well. And I've said it to BigQuery people, so I'm I'm okay with this. I already told them. So it's also a matter of of personal choices. But on the long run, I think we're gonna have like, we have good stuff on the story. Just to show you, this is something that is not yet live, but for instance, when you do a story, so for instance, no, not this one, I don't know, where I am here. If I go back to the story that I've just created, do I have this? Do I have create? Oh, I didn't create a story. But for instance, here I have a story. What we will do is that you can also create some live stories, and the live story will be a story that will be able to be refreshed every day or at the frequency that you want. You can share the story with the company. And the thing is, with Now, as it's outside of the Google ecosystem, you don't need like a Google or BigQuery account to be able to read it. For instance, maybe for some organization it's an issue because you need to have people that have like a BigQuery account, and you don't want, for instance, someone from the marketing to have a BigQuery account and stuff like this. So yeah, I don't know, Claire, if you have other ideas.
Yeah, that's.
I think the big thing is who is your target audience in the company. Because if it's only the data team, like maybe they can work with BigQuery interface, they're used to it, and also they can challenge the output. But if it's outside of the data team, as Christophe said, you don't want to give them access to BigQuery. And the whole point of now is the context file system, so that you're sure the business user are in a constrained context area, and you're sure the agent has it gives the right answers.
Okay, very clear. And yeah, also on the UI, maybe like the graphs. I think on BigQuery it's not perfect yet. So yeah, I agree with the UI points.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have on Moon, you have my story that I shared, Christophe.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, anymore. We just use like this story. Yeah. On now.
This one. Yeah. Any other questions or remarks?
Maybe I'll just show quickly the profiling feature because it's going to be quite quick. I'll just share my screen. So if you remember, maybe we presented a bit in the CLI the different options to add some context automatically from your database. So we already had the column description and preview for a table. And a new type of context you can add on a table is the profiling of one table. So basically, during NowSync, what we do is that for each column of your table, we're going to profile some statistics about the column. So here I added it to my context. And for example, on this table of GitHub pull requests, for every column, I can know the number of non-null values, null values, percentage of null. I can, for numerical value, I can see like the min, max, min, average, etc. And for example, categorical, I can see what are the top values. So the goal here is really to help the agent to query the data and to know ahead like what's inside data. So there are many columns where the context is actually nested in the values. Think about like event types or status. This is something that often LLM gets wrong because they don't really know what's the values they need to filter on. So here, if I do a small example of how it works, thanks to this profiling, to share another tab. This one? Yeah, okay. So here, so I'm going to ask how many pull requests did Blef do? And it happens that Blef username in GitHub is not Blef. So you see, it looked at the profiling. Oh, okay, not that one. Why not? Okay, the results. Why didn't you find the right file? They modify it? That's weird. Gonna try again.
It found the answer.
It found the answer, but yeah, that's weird that you could not find the file. Okay. I'm not sure why this is happening. This was working just before. Okay, demo effects. Yeah, it seems to be right. Okay, well, this is a bad demo then, but you see the point. Like, it's supposed to read the profiling file and then be able to know how to filter things.
Here the vision, if I say it in the way, is in the context library, CLI, we want to give you all the different tools that infer some data on your database, documentation, whatever, so you can bring this information to the agent. So here we added like the profiling, and we have a peer that will be ready this week or early next week, that will give to the agent, when you use a table, what are the common join that people are using on this table. So it's a way to give the agent more information about, like, I don't know, like if we see in the query history that the table orders is often joined with like statuses, this is something that will be put in the context, so the agent knows that orders is often joined with statuses using this specific key or keys, because most of the time it's like one key, but might be multiple. And so we help the agent figuring out what are like the joins information and so on. So the goal is like we infer a lot of stuff that will be put in the context folder. So the agents have some shortcuts when it tries to answer questions.
Yeah, so for example, if you take the example of the previous webinar on like how many movies about Brad Pitt, with profiling, you will already have the values, so he knows on which fields to use to find Brad Pitt in the movies.
Depends on the kind of profiling. With the current profiling that we have, not really, because we don't do like a specific value count on all columns. So it depends on this is something that we also have to figure out, which is when it's like a text or a categorical column, do we do like a value count on everything, or do we do only a value count when it's like 10 distinct values or stuff like this? This is like a threshold that we have to find, because we already discussed with some companies where there might be an issue, because most of the time, like on the big tables, you have like partitions. This is like large tables, and so like doing a profiling on a large table is not possible. So you want to do it only on one partition. But if you do it on one partition, and you will maybe mislead the agent, because the agent will think that, oh, this is the only values that I have, but actually not really. It's only the values that you have within one partition. So we have like to figure out what is like the correct trade-off here. Yes, go ahead, Daria.
I don't have a good, I didn't form in my head yet, but so it's a very broad question. Let's assume that you keep adding different tools, MCPs, and forms of the context. The only one I have right now is my chat is pointing to MCP server, and MCP server is pulling from a semantic model, so not much. It doesn't have access to raw schema, raw database, nothing like that. No documents, no DBT repository where there is like a lot of documentation about what values are available and stuff like that. If I add all this pile of context, how would chat reason? Like, how would it prioritize? Is there any priority in which it will consider all of these different aids?
Yeah, so
the problem, or 1 second, Christoph. The problem I'm trying to solve is that, like, this question is very specific, right? How many pull requests did below? Like, I can infer a lot from this question. The question that I experimented with yesterday was, how's reliability? And boy, it struggled to figure out which reliability I'm talking about. There is enough about EV charging reliability in my semantic model, and MCP knows about it, but it found all the different reliabilities to report on. So I was thinking, what are the priorities, what it will consider first and then next, stuff like that.
Yeah, if you want to answer, maybe.
Yeah, so I think so basically if you think like strictly technically what are the priorities, like first context that is sent to the agent is the rules.md. So this is going to be the context that the agent always has access to. And then if it can't find enough context in that, then it's just going to search some keywords in your context. So basically do search like pull requests over all the files. And then, yes, it could be a bit more random. So for example, to your point, Daria, on the reliability topic, on the test that I've done, I have a similar use case where in my unit test, I have some questions which are saying our users. But like users could mean a different thing depending on the context. Could mean like signed up user, paying users, users that have activated this feature. And so I actually put in my rules.md a rule of how to infer what our users mean depending on the context, and also like forcing the agent to actually reason about it and saying like, okay, if the context is about revenue, then our user probably mean paying users, etc., etc. So I think, yeah, the agent won't be able to guess things, but we need to account for the fact that our end users are not going to be precise. So we need to give the context so the agent can do the same as we do, like infer from the context what kind of metrics we're talking about.
And if we look at it in a way, it's the agent, when you ask something, is trying to orchestrate the question that you ask. And you need to have some kind of orchestration regarding all the topics that your company is about. And at the moment, the way you do this orchestration level is through the rules.md. That is like the thing that is at the top, and you do this kind of orchestration. I think moving forward, we will like maybe split this rules.md into smaller stuff with like a different maybe architecture depending on how big it becomes. Will help maybe the agents being able to search better these kind of topics and so on. But for the moment, we are sticking with the rules.md because this is like one entry point, and this is like plain English in which you can like do this kind of orchestration. And in the end, to be honest, when you look at all the experiments and research that people are doing, like one simple markdown is way better than a lot of small markdown when it comes like to this kind of orchestration.
Any other questions? Maybe I'll just share this. So we keep on doing a lot of events with the community because we like it. So we're going to have in-person meetups coming. Next Tuesday, I'm going to a data meetup in San Francisco, and we'll be talking about context engineering. So if by chance you're there, come. And then 31st of March, we're launching a meetup on agentic analytics in Paris. And the goal here would be to do a roundtable with 4 data teams that not only use now, but also like other tools. So I know Matt is going to talk about their use of Dust. We have people talking about Cortex, about Hex, about building in-house agents. So the goal is really like to share best practices about analytics agents and context engineering for that. And then in 2 weeks, so 2nd of April, we'll do another community hour to share more stuff. That's what we do. And Toronto, yeah, we'll come to Toronto. I mean, add this to the map. The Databricks and AI Summit in SF, I haven't checked yet, like the dates. So maybe we'll be there. I need to check if we can make it. And yeah, and if you want to organize some meetups in your city, like we're happy to help. Maybe come. If it's Europe, it's easier. But we'd love to help you organize meetups around that. Any final questions or remarks or? No. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for being here. And if you have any questions, like you can reach out by mail, Slack, GitHub, whatever works.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you. Have a
you.
good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.